I'm drinking peach and ginger tea. That's what I drink.
Bro, please go
It's
to
cold up
Toronto.
here, man.
Go
It's
to
cold up here.
Toronto and do your podcast in Toronto.
I'm
where
in
you
hockey.
belong.
I'm in hockey country, bro. I'm in the actual real cold. So.
Yeah, you are probably freezing. All right, let's get into it. We had some fun games this week. The Panthers went on a Canadian road trip, and I want to start with the Senators game. I think that was one of the most fun games of the year for any team, any matchup this year. I completely forgot that last season was kind of similar. The Panthers won that game, but there was a ton of penalty minutes in that one as well. I think it's just the Kachuk brothers. They just like it. I think when they face each other, they like it. But beyond the fighting and the game misconduct and all that wild stuff, I thought that was one of the Panthers, one of their best games this year in terms of offense and just putting it together. After that letdown the previous week, just a couple of bad games, for them to respond like that is very encouraging because it just gains trust. Like, I trust the team to have a bad game or two, but I know that they'll rebound from that. It's not gonna snowfall or snowball downhill from there and all that. But yeah, I thought that was obviously that was the start of the road trip, and I just thought that I think that the team it's finally getting a bit of recognition as well around the league. You can hear in other podcasts and analysts. So yeah, what did you was there anything in that game that you enjoyed? I think my favorite part was just the game misconduct for everyone, of course, but just the continuation of it, the grandma in the stands. It was very funny.
It was hilarious. It's like a meme game. Like, everybody talked about it because the benches looked like a beer league. Like, it was empty for both teams. Maurice kind of laughing on the bench. The backup goalie was it Stollers? Was it Stollers who was backing up? Yeah, he was like sitting in the middle.
Yeah, it was Stollers. Yeah, he was huge, man.
The guys were like high fiving him. I think that obviously we were winning, so they could afford to just be chill. But yeah, I mean, I think you botched it when you got to get better at this, because you were like, oh, the Panthers went on a road trip to Canada, and you should have said and whooped that ass, because yeah. We whooped that ass, man.
Wow.
Yeah, even the Toronto game, bro, like, the defense, I know that this will be hard to sustain, and Bob right now it's hot, and Stoller's had a hell of a game. His numbers for the season are really, really good. He's only played 3 games, but dude should get a few more games and give Bob a rest, because I think he could be trusted. He had one week game and then 2 really strong games. But anyway, like, I think what I really liked was, for that game, obviously it was a mean game. It was just hilarious, and it was, I'm just glad nobody got hurt, and that the Panthers dominated and won and all that. And I think Senators got bigger issues. I know they don't want to fire their coach. I've heard that that's not something they're thinking about, but I don't know that that's going to last if they don't figure it out. I think they don't like each other. I think that they're just both very physical teams and nasty teams. And I think when you put that together, it's always going to kind of look like that. I think Brady Tkachuk and Matthew, they overdo it when they play each other. I think they're afraid of being criticized or being told, like, oh, you didn't try as hard against your brother. So I think they kind of go over the top, honestly, and they were even chirping at each other. I think it's part of it is performative and just trying to show your team and get your team that hey, just because my brother, like, we're not going to take it easy. And then everybody follows. And I respect Brady, and I wish I had him on my team, and I respect the Senators, and I think that they're not, to me, a dirty team. They're just like a very physical team. And they got some young talent, but they need better coaching, better structure. I don't know. Is it DJ Smith or whatever? I don't know if he's the right coach, but anyway, that was a fun game just because he was like hilarious and got out of control. And just to say everybody on the ice gets a Misconduct, it's one of the funniest shit you could hear on a hockey rink. But I want to actually talk about, like, the fact that the next day I was worried, to be honest, low-key worried about the Leafs game after that game, because I thought, well, the good news is we won, and won big. So, like, even if we lose against the Leafs, like, on this road trip, if you can go 2-1, because Montreal is being a team that you should beat, that's a good trip, given the opposition and the fact that it was a back-to-back, that we had all those fights, all the misconduct. Some of our defensemen had to put up a bunch of minutes because other people were out. So Ed Black and Forsling and Montour they put up a lot of minutes. And that the game ended pretty late because of all the delays and all the issues. And, even though it's a short trip, they probably didn't get to the hotel till pretty late. And, I know Maurice gave them the day off, like they didn't do a skate the next day, obviously. But I was just worried that there would be a letdown. Usually there is, and the Leafs had 3 days off. They were coming off the loss against Pittsburgh. They were pissed. There was a lot of talk about Sheldon Keefe and pressure. And, I thought they were going to come in hot. And it's funny how we were the ones that came in hot and dominated at first and should have been up by more. And overall in the game, we outshot them. I thought we were generally the better team, even though Toronto did make a push. And Wall saved their ass. And then that, the whole Rodriguez goal or whatever, we could have gone either way. The breaks went the Leafs' way, and that's okay. But the day before, the breaks went our way. So, but I was happy with the performance and how tight on defense we were, and the penalty kill. It was incredible at the end. I think we've killed now 26 straight penalties or something. And, Stenlund and Lusty are an incredible pair on that PK. So that's one of the things I took away from the whole trip, even yesterday, which I think we killed 6 of them because we got called for everything. But yeah, I took away that the defense is pretty tight. Bob has been really strong. He's made some big saves, but we're not allowing a ton of rebounds. We are clearing the net. We're hitting people, cross-checking people. Yesterday, we were able to get the puck out of the crease a few times. Even there was one scramble where one of the defensemen, I don't remember if it was Montour or Forsling, but, all of a sudden saw the puck and actually hit it between his own legs to the backboard to get out of the scrum and then put it back out. It just shows you that they're actually very focused and kind of reacting in the right ways on defense. Ed Black is not making a bunch of bond-headed plays. I have to say, since coming back, he has his moments where he makes, dumb plays or whatever, but he's not pinching in too much. He's not out of position as much as last year. Last year was a mess during the regular season. I think he's carried on the play from the playoffs where he's just been physical, responsible, largely, and he's not very noticeable. And that's actually not a bad thing because I'd rather Forsling be the guy that joins in more. And I think Ebla has accepted that because he actually said that when he came back, that having Forsling as a partner is a cheat code because, Forsling's going to get it out. So I like that he's starting to play more composed. And Montour hasn't gotten going offensively, but, I think he's building on it, shoulder injury and all that. It's going to be hard to come back from that right away. So, yeah, man, they're playing tight. They're playing playoff hockey in November. They're playing physical. Yesterday, at the end of the second period, when things were not going their way, and the game was still tight and shots were even, the last 5 minutes of that second period, they just hit everybody in every shift just to get themselves going. And I think it set them up for the third period to just pop it open. So anyway, I'll stop there. There's more to talk about. But for me, just the defense, the tightness. And what I like about it is that you can replicate game to game. That is consistent. Even if you lose games, even if Bob has a bad night, the next night you can go back to that game and even more so for the playoffs. I think that transition of forechecking, defending, and then letting the skill shine, and he finally broke through yesterday. I mean, we've had 2 games of the last 3 with 5 goals, but especially yesterday with the snipers, just finally scoring on good shots. I think that's what we need. Just play that tight game, and then the chances will come, and you just try to make the most of them. So I don't know. It's not the flashiest hockey, but man, it's beautiful to watch in terms of dominance and composure and doing it on the road in Canada where we never get breaks and always get everything called against us. It was pretty good.
Yeah, don't tell that to Leaf fans because they think
I know, but Maurice trolls them. I love that Maurice just trolls them. Oh, I'm glad we have rules. I'm glad that you get trolled. He loves to troll them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's been a few things that have sort of evolved since the start of the season that are I think are the main reasons why the team is where they are now, and it's looking good. well, from the beginning of the season, our top line has been excellent, and it has stayed on. Reinhardt and Barkov are both top 10 players when you look at all the advanced stats. The PK has been amazing lately, right? The power play, it hasn't looked excellent. It's just that you're scoring on the power play, which is all you need. Get it to Reinhardt down there or snipe it from the line. And I think the power play is going to get better once Montour gets going. And then if you have OEL on that second power play unit as well. So PK, power play, our top line performing well. And I think just from the road trip, I don't know if I almost feel like this team needs to have some kind of motivation, either playing from behind or just have some kind of get up for these games. Can be difficult when you're kind of playing this grinding style and the chances are you're not scoring on your high danger chances, which is basically what's been happening up to now, which is why we've always mentioned that we need another scorer or another playmaker, as you want to say. But I think that's been the key. And I think as long as, you're going to have games where the power play isn't working or the PK isn't going. But I think as long as we keep everybody healthy, it's good, man. Sam Bennett's finally, contributing, and Verhage as well last night. Rodriguez finally scores a goal. Poor guy. Barkov looks great every damn game. Reinhardt has been very, very consistent. Even when he doesn't score, he's really good on the boards, man, and around the boards. Yeah, I love the team. Obviously, I know you want to talk about Gadjovic, but Stanlin has been incredible on that PK. It's almost like what Rodriguez has done for the top line, where it has opened up the ice a bit more, because Rodriguez, like Duclair, he's fast and all, but Rodriguez is obviously a vet. And because of the teams that he's played on and his experience, he just knows how to open up the game. You watch him go, he's always going into that zone with Barkov and Reinhardt, and he's right away. He knows where to go, who to pass the puck to. Those things are important. You look around the league, Colorado, any of the teams, the top line has to be working. But yeah, I know you want to talk about Gadjovic. I just want to talk about Stenlin, give him his flowers for the great job that he's doing.
Yeah, no, he's having like a career year, and he's looked great. And that fourth line, Lomberg is +7, even though he only has 2 points, 2 goals this season so far. But he's been really, really solid 2 ways as well. So you can trust that fourth line on the ice on defense. Gadjovic I think he just took Lauren's spot. Yeah, I think, he hits everything. He hits so hard. He's a clean hitter too. He doesn't get penalties. He's willing to fight anybody. He's a big dude, and he's actually looks like a good fighter, like knows how to fight, but also like can skate, has pretty decent hands. Yesterday he made a couple of plays getting to the net. He likes to go to the net a lot. I think some goals are going to come for him eventually. And so I just like what he brings. I think, again, like, Cito and the staff just find these guys, but I think Stellan and him, especially with their size, and then having Lawrence as a backup is a bit of a gift. It's just to have depth with size. With Lawrence is able to play center too. He's decent. And the drop off won't be that bad if it's on your fourth line. So yeah, I think that level of depth. I still think the third line needs a shooter. I think Lundell and Lucy are playing much better, much more consistent. They're buying in. They're getting in the battles and playing really well on defense, obviously killing penalties, both of them really elite there. And Lucy's not putting up a lot of points. I mean, Lundell's sneaky. It's like now trending to a 40-point season, so that's decent. I don't know if he, can maybe get to 50 in the second half of the season if he starts scoring, but that's not bad for a third liner, but yeah, I think, Cousins hasn't been terrible. He's still just a guy who, gives you little things here or there, gives you a lot of energy, just not a lot of shoot. I don't know what he is, right? Like, at least with Lucy and Lundell, they can kill penalties, they can play center, they can play 2 ways. They're bigger guys, they can battle on the boards and not necessarily fall or lose the puck all the time. And so there's a lot of value there. And, they have skill on offense, but they need that other guy. Losing Reinhardt is hard. And so from that line, I'm still hoping Cito finds a better option than Cousins, and maybe I don't think Cousins fits in the fourth line because now you have those three guys plus Lawrence. So I think Cousins probably gets traded, but I would love to see at least another guy who, is a battler, but who can make the most of Lusties and Lundell's, who are playmakers more than anything. They can get the puck on the boards and then get it to you to the net or the slot, or whatever. So just have somebody who can shoot, man. But yeah, just excited about the depth so far. Praying that there are no long-term injuries this season outside of the early part of the season. And again, Ekblad and Montour still have not gotten going offensively. They only have a point each in 7 games, and that they're going to score more than that. It may not be at last year's clip from Montour, obviously, at all, but still, like, Montour has put up 40 points, plus before, and Ekblad puts up 30, 40, 50 points. So anyway, I feel like we still have not taken off. Forsland's not scoring as much as he usually does. And Rodriguez finally got a goal. I think he's been shooting a lot. He's a great shooter. I think it's going to start falling for him. For Hagee too. Sneaky 10 goals and 18 points.
Yeah,
for Hagee.
He's going to have like 35 goals.
He's going to, bad year. He's going to have 35 goals. No, he's a good shooter. He just, he's getting better. He's getting stronger. I think Bennett finally also, I think what's helped for Hagee is that Bennett didn't look great the first few games, but this trip, it unlocked him. I think just like getting into fights and getting into battles and hitting people and then finally scoring a couple goals, a really good 2 goals, a nice backhand and then a great shot yesterday. He can give you that. I mean, Bennett can put up 20 goals a season, and so in addition to the assists. So he's never going to be a guy who puts up 70 points, but if he can give you 50, 40, whatever, 45 at least to help with the depth. And Tkachuk is not scoring. He only has 3 goals. He's putting up assists, and he's been playing great, actually. I think he's passing and his board battling has been great. He's winning a lot of puck battles now, and anticipating, like, his timing just got better. And, these guys came back battered and injured from the playoff run. You got to go into a reset. It's a new season. Expectations are higher. You can see that Lundell has been really stiff the first, month or month and a half of the season. There's a lot of pressure on these guys, and maybe they weren't used to that. And so now it seems to have calibrated and everybody healthy, everybody humming. And so I'm just hoping that now at home we can avoid some of those games like the ones against the Jets, and we can keep steady and beat the teams we're supposed to beat. I think we get the Islanders tomorrow. So, they're a physical, defensive team, so it'll be tight, but and they just beat Carolina. But I think we should beat them. They don't score a lot, so hopefully we can win a tight game, and then take it from there. So anyway, it's been good. It's nice to be winning at this time of year and not have to worry too much about having to make a run. We can actually afford to lose a few games if it comes down to that. We have a bad month and rebound and still be in the playoff hunt. So, yeah, and the goalies, man, the numbers are good. Stolarz is 929 save percentage. Bob is 914. The goals against are low. So, yeah.
Yeah, Bob, they were talking, I think Goldie said it. He hasn't allowed more than 3 goals in 9 games or something like that.
Yeah, man. He's been, he does lift. I mean, he left it in the soft one yesterday, left in a soft one against the Jets and, whatever. But he's been more locked in. And the defense, I think, is helping. If you give up a lot of breakaways, he's not going to stop him. But if you give him a lane,
if he's
a clear lane on the angle, he can get tight. And as long as guys are not going up top and he's able to come out far enough to avoid because he gets beat up top a lot. So anyway, he's been pretty locked in and not letting a lot of rebounds. So, again, it'll be in waves. He might go to a rough patch at some point. But I think Stolarz has also earned to stay on the backup role and just keep Knight playing in the AHL. Knight he's had really good games and some not great games. Though the AHL, the defense is terrible, to be honest, because I watched those games. So it's not always his fault. But Knight he needs more time to just really get in a groove. So I don't see him coming up first half of the season, at least. He might be later in the season. But if Stolarz keep playing like this, Knight might spend the season on there. And then next year,
and I can see if
next Cito will have to make a decision next year if he trades Bob what to do. If maybe Knight becomes the backup and then we find another starter, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and if Knight doesn't work out, you just trade him.
You try to trade him. I mean, it's not a ton of money, and he does have the high end skills. So yeah.
Yeah, I like him, and I want him to work out. But if it's not happening by next season, then then you trade him, because Stolarz right now is really solid. It's only 3 games, but even the bad game wasn't terrible. Like he doesn't let in all these easy goals, and he's big, so he covers a lot of the net, which is something that we haven't really had in a long time.
Yeah, man.
So that's encouraging. The defense has been great. I saw a stat on X on Twitter. I forgot from where, but it had both Forsling and Mikola as top 10 defensive defenders, which is great, especially Forsling. Like, just the eye test, he passes everything. You look at him, every time there's a potential for a 2-on-1 or a rush from the other team, and Forsling is on the ice, it's not happening. He's either going to get a penalty or he's going to stop it somehow.
Oh, yeah. And he only has 6 points, which I say only because.
But that's okay. That's okay. If he's on the, he belongs on the top pair. And
yeah. He's plus 13, man. He's like a lead both ways. I think he leads the league in the bridging the gap on defense when guys come in and whatever. Like he's elite. He's an elite. He's becoming a lead defender, and he has enough offense and skating to deserve to be on a top pair with somebody. I think Ekblad belongs more on a second pair at this point, but for now with Montour there, it's a great trade-off, and the chemistry's there, so you don't want to mess that up. But Forsling is legit, and I think, again, a keeper, I'm hoping we can re-sign him and keep him, and he's a guy that will give you a lot of play for a lot of years, the way he plays. And I think Montour too, Montour's just been a little bit rustier, a little bit more out of position here or there, but he recovers quickly, and he can skate. So once he gets going in the groove, he's going to give you that. Mikola's been fantastic, like you said. The numbers are there, and then Kulikov has been a plus player now, and he can skate, and he can weave a little bit and pinch in and shoot. So not a terrible third pairing if Kulikov and OEL 12 points, 6 goals, like is not a negative player. Like he's been,
I never really watched him play regularly. But what I like about OEL is he's just consistently like right there. Like he's not gonna make some crazy mistake. He's not gonna be some amazing defenseman either, and he's not gonna score some flashy goal. He's almost like he's what like Ekblad is supposed to be in a way, right? Because OEL's a little older. But yeah, I think he earned whatever he gets on his next contract. Whoever pays him, I don't think Zito's gonna extend him.
No,
but you're gonna lose Kulikov next year. You're probably gonna lose Mahura. So I don't know. Maybe you work out, a discount.
No, I think it depends on what OEL wants. He had that buyout, and then he's still he's in his 30s, and he can either go try to get one last big contract if somebody gives it. I don't think. I mean, he's not a top pair defenseman, and that's where teams would make a mistake and where he would struggle. He held, stayed above water with Forsling, but he had Forsling to help him, but that pairing struggled a little bit at times on defense, and I think OEL belongs on a second or third pairing right now with another guy who can help him, and protect him a bit. But he's been putting up the points. So we've needed that since Montour and Ekblad haven't scored a lot, and Forsling's not putting up a bunch of points. So I'm glad that we've gotten some offense from him and from Mikola, unexpected offense, because it's really made a difference. But yeah, he's a second or third pair guy. He would only stay in the Panthers if he can stay for like a discount. Again, just because he likes to live in Florida or wants to win, or doesn't feel like he has to make all this money and feels more protected. Maybe he can extend his career. If he wants to sign a 3 or 4 year deal for like $3 million, in some ways maybe that's better. You get 9-12 million bucks versus like going elsewhere, where I don't think anyone's going to give him a 5-6 year deal. I mean, with his history of injuries and stuff, so maybe he can get a 1 or 2 year deal for $5 million somewhere else. But that's the same amount of money and less time. So anyway, I think maybe Cito can do the whole like 3 to 4 years for like a low AAV offer with the tax breaks, and see if he's willing to do that, because you can then have him as a third pairing guy who can step up if there's an injury. And these guys are playing into their mid 30s at a pretty decent level. So anyway, that we'll see. It's a matter of fit. It's a matter of what the player wants, but I wouldn't give him more than 3 years or whatever, or 4 years, and wouldn't give him more like $3 million, to be honest, or 3.5 at most, because you do need it for all the guys. So that's the whole point. But yeah, if we lose him in Kulikov, we'll have to bring, sign another Kulikov or whatever for $1 million or a guy like that, and then maybe bring on Mike Benning. We'll have to see if Balinskis works out long term and whether they want to bring him back for less than $1 million, because it's probably not going to cost much. So we'll, Cito always figures it out. I'm sure we'll ram that out with a veteran or two and one of the rookies and you got to hope those guys also give you some good play. Like Balinski's had a bad game against the Jets, but everybody did. And I think he's still a really good defender. So, next year he can play Kulikov minutes and maybe that works out.
Yeah. And I think right now, if I had to make a decision, if I was Zito and I have to, pick and choose who I extend, I think Forsling is a no-brainer, even at like $7 million. And I think you extend Forsling and Reinhardt. Reinhardt's still young, and if you do that, you have a core. You already have Rodriguez for 3 years that you can plug in third line, first line, second line, anywhere. You have Tkachuk locked up. You have to choose next year between Bennett and Verhaeghe, who you want to extend there because you probably can't pay both. And obviously, you try to extend Bennett, and Bennett's an affordable center. So I think that's the game I would play. I don't know. I wouldn't extend Montour right now unless he's willing to take a very team-friendly deal, only because last year could have just been a fluke. And he is a very good player. You can see it. And I'm not talking about how he's looking right now, but just based on what Forsling is doing and Reinhardt, I think if the cap is going up by $4 million next year, then you give 2 extra to Reinhardt at 8.5 or 8, whatever. And Forsling, you give him a nice promotion as well, because he's just been excellent, man. Claimed off waivers. Insane. But yeah. All right. Anything else you want to talk about with the Panthers? I know we can take a quick look at that division, the Atlantic division. We're in second place. We're right there behind Boston. They do have a game on hand. So actually Saturday is it might be a bit of a turning point for that division. Red Wings are coming on strong. It's kind of a win-win on Saturday between I think it's the Leafs and Bruins, right? It's kind of a win-win, right? Obviously we want the Bruins to lose if we win, because that keeps the distance from Toronto getting the 2 points, and we gain 2 extra points on the Bruins, and then in a couple of weeks we could be talking about the Panthers fighting for that top spot in the Atlantic. I do think if the Leafs can figure it out, they'll get there. The way their defense looks right now, there's a good chance the Bruins are going to absolutely own them on Saturday, and that's fine too. And then, well, what can you tell us about the Lightning? Did you watch the game last night? I only saw the highlights. Man, they just go through these like periods of nothing. They just circle the puck around. It's all power play. Stamkos is starting to look a little old. You can see it yesterday. Some of the shots he took, just not good shots, straight to the goalie's chest. I thought maybe with Vasilevsky coming back, they will get like a boost. But I think they kind of almost went back to what they were. Because I almost feel like with Johansson, they had to play a little bit harder. And you could see those were like high-scoring games sometimes. But yeah, it's looking more and more like the Lightning are going to be trending down. And I think they'll make it, but they might be fighting for that playoff spot.
Yeah, I think their defense is not as stout as it used to be in terms of depth and play. That's showing. They've lost some guys over the last few years, and that's made a difference. I think their bottom 6 cannot defend. I mean, the numbers yesterday, if you look at the stat card for the game, a lot of the bottom guys on defense are like bottom pairing defensemen and bottom 6 players. Like they're getting caved in right now. And that just speaks to the lack of depth on the team. Unfortunately, they have a lot of journeymen, which, the Panthers have used in the past, but for whatever reason, it isn't clicking there. It may be that Cooper's been there too long and that maybe they need a different voice. I don't, the inconsistency. They dominated the first period. I mean, I thought that the game was over. It was 2-0. The shots were like super, like there was a huge disparity. I thought the Lightning were just going to run away. Then, of course, they had a bad second period and Palin's tied it, but then you expect them to rebound at home on the third period, but they just didn't. And Pittsburgh's a solid team. Like they're not scoring as much, and they've been mediocre on the standings, but their underlying numbers say that they're actually pretty solid, structured team. So, and Jari just had a good game. So I don't know. I think for them, it's just a matter of like this year is going to be up and down. It's just going to keep, and Vasilevsky needs to bail them out. So, Kusherov's putting up a bunch of points. Hagel's had a decent season again. But yeah, some other guys are not looking great, and they just don't look as stout. They can beat you on any given night. If they're on, they're on. They'll be pesky, they'll be feisty, but yeah, man, they're getting older. They've been through a lot of runs, probably getting tired of each other a little bit, and just inconsistent. And it happens. It's hard to sustain what they did. And if people forget, yeah, they had these cup runs, but before then they were making the playoffs. They were winning the President's Trophy. They made it to another finals like a few years ago, early on with Cooper when he came in, I think. So they've been at it for a long, long time. They've been playing long seasons and playoff seasons for a decade now, basically with him, with the coach. And so that wears down, man. That wears you down, and that puts a lot of mileage. So anyway, just they're a more vulnerable team than in years past, and I'm hoping we can take advantage. And yeah, the Bruins are starting to slow down, even though they beat the Sharks yesterday. Now they played the Leafs, so tomorrow will be a great game to watch. But the Bruins had like 3 games in a row where they allowed a ton of goals, like 17 goals or something crazy like that. And they're starting to look more vulnerable, as they should have. I mean, people expected them to take a step back. Detroit is hot right now, but I think it's a bit of a mirage still. I always said they're not going to be as bad as people think. This is better than even the numbers say. They're still scoring at a high rate, higher than they should be scoring. But I just don't buy that long term. And now even with Kane, the defense is going to suffer. I think eventually, they're going to be in the battle. They might compete for a playoff spot. They might even make it in if another team falls. But because the Sabres and Senators are a mess right now on defense. They allow so many goals. The Sabres are awful.
The Senators have 17 games played. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I know. The schedule is weird.
They're the only team in the league with less than like 20 games.
Yeah, we'll see. They might catch up. Yeah, to your point, they might catch up a bit.
So I think they could, if they can, beat up on lesser teams. Yeah, the Lightning are about bottom of the conference in goals against by a lot, and the next 2 teams are the Blue Jackets and the Canadiens. So yeah, after that you have the Devils, the Sabres that you mentioned are struggling, the Hurricanes, who were leaking goals like crazy to start the year, and the Panthers, Pittsburgh, Boston, Capitals, who apparently have a great defense, and the Rangers are the top 6 in the league. Panthers top 5 in goals against. Yeah, it's sad to see in a way, because you want the Lightning. There are 3 teams besides the Panthers that I always want to do well, to make it interesting in the playoffs. And obviously it's the top teams, the Boston Bruins, the Leafs, and the Lightning. I think that by the time we play the Lightning in the playoffs this season, maybe, or next year, they might just already be half dead, and we're just gonna kill them. But the way the season's going, chances are we're probably not going to see them in the first round. We're probably going to see the Leafs or Boston in the first round if we can keep up our play, which there's no reason to believe that we won't, other than injuries happening.
It's still early. It's still early in the season. I mean, we'll know by the All-Star game and stuff. I think things can change. I mean, seasons have different storylines and pockets usually. But at least right now, yeah, I think it's up in the air in terms of the division. I don't want us to finish first. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I know that maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't want us to bring the President's Trophy, which I guess we won't, because there are a bunch of other teams that will probably finish above us. But maybe winning the division is great because you do get home advantage. But we've been a really good road team in the playoffs, especially last year. And there's always that pressure of playing at home. So part of me actually feels like, do we want to finish second? And kind of go from there. But yeah, it's kind of where we are, man.
Yeah. Other stuff around the league. The Oilers looking a little bit better. They're picking it up a little bit, so that that's kind of fading. Let's get into that Zadorov trade that happened yesterday. I think he went for what, a 5th round pick and like a 2026 fifth, I think, and next year's
third,
fifth.
fifth and a third. I mean, it wasn't like nothing. You know, it was a fifth this year, I think, and a third in 2
picks,
years.
right?
A third in 2 years or something like that. Yeah. So, like, you know, it's 2 picks for a guy who's a bottom pair defenseman. I mean, Zadorov all of a sudden got blown up because the Leafs are interested and they've tried to make him this great defenseman. He's an NHLer. He's a solid, really good fifth guy, a mediocre fourth guy, kind of a, you know, and definitely not like a top 4 guy that you would really. But that's how the Leafs might have used them. And they did that with Luke Shen and stuff, who also is a similar player, just older. But I guess Zadorov has more offensive upside. But, you know, I think that, to me, Vancouver obviously got rid of the cap with a Beauvillier trade since Chicago needed him. They've been trying to get rid of that contract and use that money for Zadorov. And, you know, I still think Vancouver is a bit of a mirage. They're kind of, to me now, becoming more of the Red Wings of the West because the underlying numbers are not as great. Like, they have scored at a way higher rate than they should have. I know they have Demko, but I think they lost again. So
yeah, they got beat up last night. Yeah,
they got pretty beat up. And so, yeah, I just don't know that those young guys are ready to go. And some of the veterans have been known for not playing super consistently. So I know that pocket probably is where it's staying on people eventually. So, so I just don't know what's going to happen with Vancouver. I just don't have them as a contender. But yeah, they needed the trade and needed the depth on defense. And I guess it's a smart move for them. They have enough offense. So bringing a guy like Zadorov makes sense for that price, you know, and they have their picks. Vancouver does so, and with a tight cap space. Anyway, it was a smart move. It was a, you know, good GM work, in my opinion. What's funny for the Leafs is that they needed them to retain money because of their cap situation. And Tanev is probably more the guy that they probably want, even though Tanev's older and injury prone, but they probably just need him as a rental. But it just speaks to one, how narrow-minded, in my opinion, the Leafs can be. Because I think there are other defensemen out there and other teams that could contribute. I'm not talking about like coming to make a difference. If they want a top 4 guy, they don't have the assets for it. Like, if they want a really like a legit top 4 defenseman, they're gonna have to trade Fraser Minten or a first round pick from the first round pick they got this year, which is the only really thing they have. Robertson's not an asset. They keep trying to sell that. He just all of a sudden doesn't look like he belongs in the NHL. No one's gonna think of him as a prize asset. And they don't have a ton of picks, and you know, if they give away Fraser Minten, they all of a sudden only have one prospect in Cowan. You know, that like looks like could be something. So, yeah, it's a tight situation, man. The cap's not great for them. He won't be great next year with everybody's price going up and Nylander probably re-signing, and then the year after that again when like Tavares comes off the books. I told you, Nye's contract is up and Joseph Wall's contract is up. Those guys want to get
Wall's
paid.
Gonna get paid because Wall's gonna do well. You can tell he's a good goalie and
nice too, man. He's got the size and the skill, and he's still very young.
And up there in Toronto, Wall's gonna want like 5 or 6.
They're gonna want a lot of money, and with the cap going up, especially. So anyway, like their cap situation is gonna be tight.
It's really bad already, and it's just funny, like. Where it was that obviously the Leafs asked the Flames or needed the Flames to retain some salary to get Zadorov. But yeah, that's the price you pay when you have that core 4 getting paid the way they are, because it's just funny, right? Like, take $1 million away from Marner, take $1 million away from Matthews, take $1 million away from what Nylander wants for next year. Take $500,000 from Tavares, and you can pay 1 or 2 defensemen. It's just that, like, it's those little details of like, I need to get paid this much. Like Marner, I think is what, 10.9. Why can't it just be 10? Like, it's just this weird thing with the money. Like, there has to be a minimum that as a player you would take on an extension. Like, say you're Reinhardt and you're like, I'm not taking less than 8. Okay, that's fine. And then you kind of go from there with the term, etc. But these guys, and Matthews just did this for this amount of money for, 4 years or 5 years, whatever. He's going to be 30 or 32 when that contract expires, and he's probably going to get paid again. Like, these guys just don't care in that way. They're not building. It's not really a core. There's no unity in that team. They've had 4 hat tricks already, and they still have 5 regulation wins. They're still bottom in the conference, or bottom 5 or 6 in goals against. They just happen to outscore their problems. They have 10 more goals than the Panthers or something. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And then Elliot Friedman said yesterday that they're considering, that Treliving is considering not going after just a rental for this year to boost the team this year. He's trying to look for long-term solutions. This fansman that they can trade for that are willing to extend with them, which is fine. It's smart, but I almost feel like they're just going to have to punt on this year and then, hope that Tavares...
Well, how do you even do that? Because the only way to do it, you got to trade your first round pick and Fraser Minted. So you got to give up any assets you got left for the next 2 to 3
Robertson,
years.
Benton.
I mean, but Robert, I keep people say, Robert, who the is Robertson? Robertson is
whatever.
Cousins. It's not even Cousins. Cousins can play center, and you can rely on him in the playoffs, and he's been in NHL for his whole life. Well,
that's the only. I think that's the only guy other than,
because they don't have anybody. Mackey's better than him. Sordif is better than him. But it's just anyway. That's just where no one's going to trade for Robertson for anything meaningful unless it's a really bad GM, and no one's going to give you a top 4. A long-term solution. Robertson's not part of that deal, and if he is, he's a throwaway, or just an extra piece just to throw it in there to make the money work or whatever. But the only way they can make that work is trade one of the core 4, which is what I would do. But or trade Fraser Minton, your first, Robertson, whatever, Brody, whatever. Try to figure it out, see how you can make that work.
I haven't looked at the rosters for teams around the league, but we know that the Blackhawks are going to go hard the next 2 years. They got Bedard. They're going to sign guys. They're going to try to build a team in the next year or 2. Because in the NHL, you don't need much. You bring in 3 solid guys, and you have a playoff team. So you know that. So you have that as a trade partner. Who knows what the Penguins are going to do next season, or in the offseason? You can get one of those vets. There's things that they can do, the Leafs, looking ahead. I just think that, and I don't know if Treliving is going to be allowed to do it this way, the way that he wants to do it, but you have to just change. I don't know. You got to change that team. You got to trade Nylander.
The cap does not let them do that, David. It's math. Okay, math wins. If they re-sign Nylander, they do not have the money to find long-term solutions. Literally. Riley has a big contract. Brody comes off the book, but you have to replace him. It's not an add-on. It's a replacement of a guy who's your best defenseman on defense and has been for the last 3 years. So it's not, it's not so easy to just say you do that. And they've done this before. Last year, they had a ton of depth. Joseph Woll was on that team. He's a starter for Detroit. Gustafsson, he's a starter for the Rangers and has had a great year. He was a backup there, right? They had Luke Shen, who's been starting in Nashville, before he got injured or whatever. They had O'Reilly, who's a top 6 guy in Nashville and a leader and a champ. And, if that would have been your third line center, that would have been incredible. They had Achari. They had Lafferty, who they had to trade and has been good in Vancouver.
When was Hyman there?
Hyman was there for years ago. Mikheyev was there. Mikheyev was there. They had physical guys. They didn't have Barry or whatever. They've had guys. They've had a bunch.
I think you
guys.
meant Justin Hall.
No, Justin Hall. But before that, they had one of those.
No, you said Joseph Wall.
Oh, I'm sorry, Justin Hall. They're both the same. The same name. So anyway, you cannot build it. It's not the way to do it. All that money goes into those 4 guys. There's not enough space to actually make it work. It's a big, huge part of the cap. And the worst part of it is none of the 4 are elite defenders, even though they try to sell you Marner as one of them. Because look at the defensive number for forwards this year. He's not anywhere near there.
No, and didn't Marner lead the league? I heard that in a podcast last year. He led the league in giveaways in the defensive zone. That's
Yeah,
crazy. Your best like puck handler.
Yeah, and the other thing, and you can see it, man. You can see the four of them. None of them are physical. None of them are leaders. Look how Marner played yesterday. I don't know if you saw like his hat trick and then the goal in there, and he was celebrating like they just won a playoff game and like making gestures to the crowd and being a rock star. Dude, you gave up a lead. You should be embarrassed. Your overtime was awful. You should just like take the win and like celebrate real quick and get the hell off the ice because. But they're not looking for that. Matthews and Hammonds, they're looking for adoration, attention. They've been stars their whole lives. They've been skilled their whole lives. Although 4 guys are just little rock stars, and that's good. You only need 1 or 2 of those guys in your team. Patrick Kane is not physical, but he was hidden in a team of physical guys in the Blackhawks, right? Barkov is not the most physical guy, but he's a big bull. And like Kipper from Kipper Bone says, he wears down on guys. He like leans on guys.
He leans on you on the boards. He's just not a hitter.
Kipper said he wears the hell out of defensemen, right? Wears them out. And Verhaeghe's not even a fighter, but Verhaeghe hits a lot. He's a prolific hitter. He's just not like a heavy hitter. Bennett's a heavy hitter. So, but those guys are willing. But then you have Bennett, and you have Tkachuk, and you have Cousins, you have Lomberg, you have like you start naming, and then even Lustrainen fights on the boards. So it's kind of like Dan Crook, who do those fight on the board. So you need a lot of those guys. The Leafs don't have enough, and they've surrounded the court with some of them, but you don't have enough. And the other part is that rest of the team, that those guys in the periphery, will play harder if your leader is the one. Like Tkachuk was the one leading the fight in the Senators game, and then Gadjevich and Lomberg wanted to go at it with people, right? And Bennett, and so you need, Bennett fights Domi, and that gets people fired up, and like. Even Reinhardt getting punched in the face. Like you have to show, man, like you're willing to take it, show me a black eye at least, the guys are going to laugh about that, talk about that, say, hey, good for standing up to that dude. So like, they don't have that kind of camaraderie. They just have rock stars, and you can tell by the ice time. That's the other part. Like the ice time is so awful. I feel so bad for some of those guys who are, the second and third liners who are in the periphery, who don't get to play almost, anything because the other guys are playing 20-some minutes every night. So anyway, man, it's bad team construction. They're not willing to trade their stars because they bring the money. But it doesn't work, and it won't work in the playoffs. And this year, they're just objectively bad because of the cap situation. And the guys that they brought in have done okay, but it's not enough to win. And Nylander looks like shit the last 4 games. Like yesterday, to me, he had a bad game again. He was turning it over. He's trying to do too much.
But that's what he does. He disappears.
Yeah,
from time to time.
They wanted to trade Marner. Now he scored a hat trick. Now today, everybody's going to celebrate him. And so, like, that's how it works over there. So.
Yeah, it's such a weird team to be a fan of a team like that because of that. It's the flashy. What's Morgan Riley's contract?
7.5.
No way.
Yeah, man. What do you think it was?
I don't know. Like 3.5.
No,
I was looking at it because I don't remember.
No, he's a really good defense. He's not a number 1 to me, but he's a number 2 or 3. He's a force line. He's really good.
I'm not saying he's not. I'm just
7.5. I mean, I would say this. I would rather have him than Ekblad, and they make the same money. So if I could trade Ekblad straight up for him, I would.
Oh yeah. Well, how old is he?
He's getting up there. He's not old, but he's.
Oh, Dubas was the one that signed him. Re-signed him. No wonder. Yeah. No, I mean he has like a no trade clause until 2020.
It's really like a core 5, obviously, with them. But
yeah. So okay, yeah, that's insane. If they resign Nylander, they're gonna have no money. AHLers.
They have no money. They have no money. Where the money going up, and then they got to pay Nice and they got to pay Wall, so they got no money. And everybody else is going to want bigger contracts with the cap going up. So any free agents, you're going to have to pay premium dollar to have them come there. Anyway, it's a vicious cycle. The only solution is to get rid of somebody. I know they want to wait for Tavares to come off the books in 2 years, and that will help some. But then you lose Tavares, who does give you points, and it is your second line center for now.
Yeah, you got to find a 2C. Who's going to do that?
Yeah, and are you willing to get a 2C like Bennett, who gives you 40 points? but hits people, probably not, because they're going to want to either bring back Tavares or bring or move into the wing and then bring somebody who's flashy. This is why I think the Sadorov and Tanev thing is like the only reason it's because Trey Living knows them for having been the GM, and because they're kind of names that people know for having seen Calgary make playoff runs. But the other day, people were saying Andrew Peak or Bobquist and Columbus, they could be traded, and they're pretty, they're decent defensemen. They're not going to be the long-term solution, but those guys are better than the bottom three guys they got. And then they were poo-pooing that. It's like, yeah, no, that's like a plan B, plan C, whatever. Like, just because they're not names, they're not like the guys anybody watches, or Andrew Peak is a big dude. You could he's Zadorov. He could be cheaper. You could have him back there and hitting people and doing a better job than some of your AHLers. You could have Bobquist, he's a small guy, he can move the puck and be a backup on the power play and take Klingberg's spot. Maybe even give you better play than it hurt Klingberg. So, or Klingberg, I guess. I don't know why I keep throwing the S in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to make him German. So anyway, so yeah, it's anyway. I don't know, man. I don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're not serious about winning, bro. Like playoffs, they're not yet.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, I went through every team's cap friendly, and I must have missed that. I didn't realize Morgan Riley was getting paid 7.5. I mean, he has a really good year, and then a second maybe good year, but I think last year he was like a -9.
Yeah, no. He had a bad regular season. He bounced back in the playoffs, and then this year he's been really good. But
yeah, but 7.5 has to be like your top scoring defender.
That's why they bought Klingberg.
Top guy.
They wanted another guy, but Klingberg was the wrong guy. I think Matt Dumba would have been a better fit, and some other guys would have been a better fit. But anyway, it's just the pressure to bring the names, the pressure to have all these things around it. Replace, how do you replace O'Reilly? Well, we need a name. Let's go after Bertuzzi. Let's go after Domi. That's the kind of mentality I think that they have. And Klingberg is a name, it's a risky name, but it is a name. So, OEL was just much smarter move, right? We got to have the money. So
have the money, and he's just solid, man. He's very solid. He's not amazing. He's not above average.
But he's a big guy. He's a lanky guy. He gets the puck out. He doesn't get beat so easily, So, and he's been a number one, a legit number one. And you can just tell the way he plays, like he's reliable. He's not great defensively, but he's not terrible like Klingberg is, and he's reliable, and then the bottom pairing is great to have him with Kulikov so far. So anyway, yeah, man, I'm feeling good so far. Let's see how we do at home now. Hope we get a couple wins here. We have some tough matchups. Yeah. The Islanders is tough in some ways, but yeah, we got the Stars, and we get some tough teams coming in.
Yeah, I think the Stars I think we can beat the Stars. We just gotta play our game. I think we can shut them down a bit. And
they got a good goalie, so that's we struggle.
Yeah, we gotta score. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Every time
Ottinger can be kind of chaotic, so that might work in our favor. He's not like the big solid guy, that's the type of goalie that we can score against. Like Joseph Wall is that. Ottinger is a little bit more of a wild card, so that might actually work in our favor.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see.
Wait, I say Ottinger. Did I say the wrong? Is Ottinger the one in Dallas, or am I thinking of the wrong guy? What am I thinking? Who am I confusing him with?
No, yeah.
He's the one in Dallas. So I am. Who's the one in St. Louis?
Oh, Birmingham or Billington?
Oh, Bennington. Yeah.
Bennington,
I don't know what
I hate that guy.
Anyway, but Jordan Bennington. Yeah, whatever. But yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's how. This is the perfect way to end. It's just
if you want to learn about hockey in the NHL,
please Ottinger,
subscribe.
Who's that guy Ottinger who plays for the Blues.
Billington. I was thinking of badminton. That's what I was thinking. Badminton. Yeah, didn't they win the cup with in St. Louis with that?
Yeah, of course.
Doofus.
That was your O'Reilly run, man.
That's right. That was all defense.
100%. All teams were 2-1. And they were really physical. Yeah.
That was all defense. I remember.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Don't forget to subscribe, hit like on the video if you enjoyed it.